Hello, my name is Lewis and welcome to Gathering the Magic. Today we're looking at a $40 budget Ivy Gleeful Spirit deck. New from Dominaria United, this Flying Fairy Rogue says whenever a player casts a spell that only targets a single creature other than Ivy, you may copy that spell. The spell only targets Ivy. This deck is all about mutating creatures that will trigger a copy for Ivy, copying spells for even more mischief, and turning Ivy into such a beast she'll fly over your opponents for the win. Now, let's get straight into the deck tech. As always, we're starting off this budget brew hot with all of that ramp. First with some mana dorks in Elvish Mystic and Fintorn Elves for some 1-drop forest fixers. We have the third and final with the OG Llanowar Elves, a Marrowleaf Pixie that has flying and can tap for either Simic colour. There's Fertile Ground that says whenever a land is tapped for mana, you add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool, and Wild Growth that says the same except you add 1 forest to your mana pool. We have Kadama's Reach to search your library for 2 basic land, putting one on the field tapped and the other into your hand. And Rampant Growth to search your library for 1 basic land, putting that onto the battlefield tapped. There's some budget staples in Arcane Signet to tap for either blue or green, and Simic Signet to pay 1 tap and add green-blue. We've added Felwar Stone to add 1 mana of any colour that a land an opponent controls could produce, and Talisman of Curiosity to tap for a colourless. You can tap it for either Simic colours, but it deals 1 damage to you. And finally, we have Sol Ring, because Sol Ring. Before we look at those mutating monsters, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe down below for all things MTG. Subscribing is completely free to do, and it helps the channel grow and grow as we head towards 3,000 subscribers. If you are buying Magic cards, then look no further than Card Market. When signing up, use our code GATHERING-THE-MAGIC as another way to help support the channel. You love to see it. And shout out to Woodle for using our code. Now we're looking at all of those mutating monsters we're attaching onto our other creatures. First up is Auspicious Starix. This is when this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile X permanent cards, where X is the number of times this creature has mutated, putting those cards onto the field. And Flying Dreamtail Heron, this is whenever this creature mutates, draw a card. There's Gemrazor with Reach Trample, and whenever this creature mutates, destroy target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. And Migratory Greathorn, this is when this creature mutates, search your library for a basic land card, putting it onto the field tapped. We have Parcel Beast to pay and tap to look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the field. If you don't put the card on the field, put it into your hand instead. The game plan here is to put these mutating beasts onto other creatures. This triggers Ivy, copying the mutated creature, and then that copy targets Ivy. Double triggers, double the mutating creatures. For the final 2 we have Sawtusk Demolisher, the Tramply Beast that says whenever it mutates, destroy target non-creature permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 beast creature token. And Flashy Sea Dasher Octopus, this is whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Now let's look at a handful of those creatures that we want to mutate onto. First is Slippery Boggle, that can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. And Spellwild Oath, this says spells cost 2 less to cast that target it. There's Gnarlback Rhino with Trample, this is whenever you cast a spell that targets it, draw a card. And Storm Chaser Drake, this is whenever it becomes the target of a spell you control, draw a card. We've got Triton Fortune Hunter, this is when you cast a spell that targets it, draw a card, and Setescent Champion, this is when an enchantment ETB is under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it and draw a card. These creatures are great to mutate on, as when the copy hits Ivy, she can then draw extra cards, make things unblockable, and even more that we'll see shortly. For the final card in this section, we have Destiny Spinner, that makes your creature and enchantment spells uncounterable, with those options to turn your lands into elemental lands. Another great option to have in this deck is the option to copy those spells even further. First is Quasi Duplicate, to create a token that's a copy of a target creature you control. And Rite of Replication with Kicker 5. Put a token onto the field that's a copy of target creature. If target was kicked, put 5 of those tokens on the field instead. There's Crackling Counterpart to put a token onto the field that's a copy of target creature you control with Flashback, and Fated Infatuation to put a token on the field that's a copy of target creature you control, Scry 2. The trick here is to mutate on top of Ivy, which as it's on top it has Ivy's abilities but is not legendary. Then you copy another creature, it will also trigger for Fake Ivy 2. Double Ivy triggers, that is devilishly disgusting. And Twinning Staff that says if you would copy a spell 1 or more times, instead copy it that many times plus an additional time. Being able to choose new targets for the copy. That could get annoying. Something this deck needs in abundance is that card draw and side effects. First up is Charge Through to give target creature trample until end of turn, drawing us a card. And Leap to give target creature flying until end of turn, drawing us a card. There's Refresh to generate target creature, and Verdant Rebirth that says until end of turn, when this creature dies, return it to the field, both drawing us a card. There's Combat Research and Curiosity to both enchant target creature. Whenever enchanted creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, with Combat Research giving creature +1/+1 and ward if it's legendary. We have Keen Sense to again draw you a card when enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, and Shielding Plaques, the ETBs drawing you a card. Enchanted creature can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. Having these hybrid card draw effects are essential. Target another creature, trigger Ivy to get a copy. Once again, that's Ivy now powered up and even more card draw for yourself. Next up we have Rune of Flight and Might, that both ETB drawing us a card. Flight gives enchanted creature flying, whilst Might gives enchanted creature +1/+1 and trample. We have Sixth Sense to draw us a card whenever enchanted creature deals combat damage to an opponent, and Snake Umbra for more of the same, but enchanted creature also gets +1/+1 and has totem armor. Finally, there's Traveller's Cloak that once again ETBs drawing a card. When it ETBs, choose a land type. Enchanted creature has Landwalk from the chosen type. Before we look at those lands, let's look at the best of the rest in this budget brew. Starting with counter spells, we have the OG counter spell, and Negate to counter target non-creature spell. We have two of my favourites in Rewind to counter target spell, untapping up to 4 lands, and Unwind to counter target non-creature spell, untapping up to 3 lands. For some protection, we have Snakeskin Veil to put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. It gains hexproof until end of turn. And Tamiyo's Safekeeping, this is target permanent you control, gains indestructible until end of turn. You gain 2 life. We have Scale the Heights to put a 1/1 counter on target creature. You gain 2 life. You may play an additional land this turn and draw a card. And Season of Growth, this is whenever a creature you control ETBs, scry 1. Whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, scry 1. We have Giant Colossification that does ETB tapped, but it gives enchanted creature +20/+20. And Auramancer's Guise that gives enchanted creature +2/+2 for each aura attached to it and has vigilance. There's Green Classic Boar Umbra giving enchanted creature +3/+3 and has that always effective totem armor. And Vow of Wilderness to give enchanted creature +3/+3 and trample. We have a personal favourite in Aqueous Form. This is enchanted creature can't be blocked. When enchanted creature attacks, scry 1. And Alpha Authority to give equipped creature hexproof and can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. For the final 4, there's Favour of the Overbeing to give enchanted creature vigilance if enchanted creature is green, and flying if it's blue, and Setescent Training that once again ETBs drawing us a card, giving the enchanted creature +1/+0 and trample. There's One with Nature. This is when enchanted creature deals combat damage to a player, search your library for a basic land, putting it onto the field tapped. And One with the Kami that says whenever enchanted creature or another modified creature you control dies, create X 1/1 spirit tokens where X is that creature's power. As we always do, we're finishing up with all of those lands. Starting off with the basics, here we have 14 Forest and 13 Island, as this deck slightly leans more towards that green. There's Command Tower to add either Simic colours, and Exotic Orchard to add 1 mana of any colour a land an opponent controls could produce. There's Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse to both sack and search your library for a basic land, putting them onto the field tapped. We have Yavimaya Coast for a colourless, or either Simic colours at the cost of 1 life, and Temple of Mystery to add green or blue, scrying 1 when it ETBs. For the final 2, there's Simic Bounce Land, Simic Growth Chamber, and if you fancy breaking the bank, then throw in a Reliquary Tower. We'll be drawing so many cards, we might as well have one option to not have to discard down to 7. Ivy is a great and really cool new commander from Dominaria United. I think there could be lots of variety for building a deck like this too, which makes it extra fun. What way would you go with Ivy? Let me know in the comments below. There we have it, that is the $40 Ivy budget deck tech. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe down below for all things MTG. Check out our link tree in the description below for all of our social media and affiliate links. For now though, I'm all tapped out, so I'll see you in the next video.